So let's go ahead and turn the page forward before we get out of here to next year's Heisman Trophy Award. I've got some odds here. We've got Spencer Rattler right now as the Heisman Trophy favorite, followed behind on the odds board by DJ Uiagalelei from Clemson, Sam Howell from North Carolina, Bryce Young, the successor to Mac Jones, unless Mac Jones wants to come back, which we'll see. Bryce Young, Derek King, JT Daniels, Keaton Slovis. A little bit further down the line, we get to Breece Hall from Iowa State, Brian Robinson, the next running back up from Alabama, Emory Jones, Jaden Daniels from Arizona State, Michael Penix, Tyler Shuck. Anybody stand out to you? Either let's go one name either from the top that you think has an advantage over the others, and then maybe one flyer that you think could move up the board.
Well, I think, I think that going forward, I talked about this earlier tonight too on HQ a little bit. I think that this is an award that more and more we're going to see not a requirement, but kind of like an unspoken requirement in the minds of most voters. You have to be on a playoff team to win the Heisman, or at the very least, a team that is still competing for a playoff spot once the voting is done. So I think that eliminates a lot of players on this list, because I think Sam Howell is very good, but I don't think North Carolina is competing for a playoff spot next year. I don't think Miami's competing for a playoff spot next year. Maybe USC, but until I see it, I don't think USC is competing for a playoff spot. I don't think Breece Halls in Iowa State are competing for a playoff spot. So then we're kind of with Spencer Rattler, DJ Uiagalelei, Bryce Young if he takes over the starting job, maybe JT Daniels at Florida, maybe Brian Robinson or Emory Jones. And then after that, I think the long shot, I would say I would go with the favorite right now, Spencer Rattler, because we saw how strongly he finished the season. And I think going into his sophomore year, he's going to put up excellent numbers. We've seen Oklahoma quarterbacks win the award quite a bit recently. And I think that was an Oklahoma team that finished strong and is going to be back in the playoff picture again next year. But the long shot, not all that different from what just happened tonight, Chip. John Mechie III sitting there at 25-1. Now, granted, you could have gotten Devonta Smith at about 25-1 a month ago. When Barton first started bringing him up on this here show as a Heisman candidate, he was at 50-1. So maybe they're catching on with the preseason odds that we shouldn't have him this long. But I don't like trying to figure out a Heisman winner this far ahead of time, because we see it too many times. Like this time last year, none of us are picking Devonta Smith. A lot of times it's not the favorite. It's a guy that kind of, comes unexpectedly and ends up being the pick. So I would wait it for a while, but right now I would say Spencer Rattler is the most likely. Yeah.
You mean Bijan Robinson?
Not a bad pick at all. It's just Texas, Sark better have him playing for a Big 12 title and for a playoff berth, because it's going to be hard for a running back to get in there anytime soon. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but it's just to be so, like, we've seen what he did with Najee. And, Najee, as you mentioned, somebody that was on your ballot, somebody who finished 5th in the Heisman voting. And we do have Texas Heisman Trophy winning running backs. Like, they can just kind of build that narrative and we can kind of put it into motion. And then especially if we get like Texas and Oklahoma battling for it, because I'm right there with you with Rattler. Like, the reason that he's a favorite is because Baker Mayfield, Heisman Trophy winner, Kyler Murray, Heisman Trophy winner, and Jalen Hurts, Heisman Trophy finalist. This year was the first year that Lincoln Riley has been a head coach, and he's not had a Heisman Trophy finalist.
Hot seat. I think hot seat for sure.
No, that is why Spencer Rattler is the Heisman Trophy favorite right now, because we've got to snap back. We've gotten off beat, and now we need to get back on beat, and that's going to happen with Rattler as a finalist. I'd say that's a lock. Whether he wins or not, whole season to tell there. Bijan Robinson, I like that as a dark horse, just because Steve Sarkisian has done a good job of highlighting his best skill players and letting them go make plays in space. Also, Bijan Robinson can add that special teams flair, right?
Yeah.
Does it? Yeah, he could be a little punt returner out there and sort of figure out ways to get some extra bonus points. But I'm with you. The playoffs dominate too much of the conversation for me to think that a player who is not at least playing for a conference title on Conference Championship Saturday, I think it's going to be real tough to be a Heisman Trophy finalist moving forward.